Hello, I'm David, and I'm here to talk to you about cryptocurrency price analysis for Thursday, June 6th, 2019. Today we're going to be talking about the recent dip across the market, but mostly focusing on Bitcoin as the market leader. We're going to be talking about where we are right now, what the next few hours might bring, but also where we are in the larger cycle and what the next few weeks, months might bring. So without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe below. Let's get right into it. All right, here we are with Bitcoin. We're mainly going to be talking about Bitcoin in this recent dip because it's still basically the market mover. You can see the other coins are largely following along. There's some coins that are doing their own thing for sure. But in a recent video, I talked about Bitcoin dominance against the alts. There has been in the last couple weeks a little bit of a dip for sure. However, we're about 55% Bitcoin dominance, but we're not seeing the alts pull away enough that I feel that they're moving the market independently right now. So we're still going to stick mainly with Bitcoin here. So we're going to start off looking at like mostly the moving averages and the different time frames, general what's going on in the market. Then we're going to look at actual like price levels, what needs to hold, what might break. Look at a long-term time frame. So here we are. Obviously, we just had the dip yesterday. We're just above 7,800. We're kind of fighting at the 7,800 level. We got this 50-hour moving average coming down. It's providing some downward pressure, but it looks like we might be breaking it even right now. So I don't think it's going to slow us down too much, really. Moving out to the 4-hour, we see we have some pretty nice support on the 200 moving average here, and that seems to be what's catching us right now. We'll see if that holds, but it is providing a nice kind of upward pressure that might carry us back up, to test 8,000 and such. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And I just want to touch on the daily. This is a little bit of a longer term issue, but we have the rising 50-day moving average. It probably will be a little while before it gets up here unless we have a bit of a crash, but I think when it gets up, it'll help provide some of that push to get us back up to over 8,000 and see what we can do up there. So that's all, that's kind of where we're at right now. Let's head back to the 4-hour really quick. And I want to throw up some indicator lines here. I know there's several of them. I try to keep it as simple as I could. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. Basically, I've heard it said on Twitter, and I kind of am inclined to agree. It looks like we might be entering into a descending channel here. These blue lines here, I wanted to define separately from the price levels. And it's a little early to call it, but it is kind of carving out the definition of this descending channel. If that's the case, we might be at least looking at a short-term a bearish trend. But let's talk about what would define that and if that's really going to happen. So one thing is that this 200 moving average here on the 4-hour, this is going to be pretty important. If we hold it, it could carry us back up to the top end of this channel to test there. If we break, we're probably going to test back down to about where we just got stopped out at about 7,500. And that would still be in line with this descending channel. On the upper end of the channel, we also have this 50 moving average kind of helping to support it. So right now, we just got above 7,800, kind of obviously. We need to hold here. We need to stay above this. It's been fighting it for a little while. So we'll see. By the time this video comes out, a lot of things might have happened. But if we can push up, of course, 8,000 is our next upside target. We've battled at 8,000 a lot over the last several days, weeks, and so that's going to be kind of a big one. And if we can break that in the next few hours, day, even 2 days, we might have a very quick ascent to test up to the upper end of this channel, and that would put us at around 8,400. And that's if it rises quickly. If it rises slowly along this moving average, it might take several days, and then we're probably looking at touching the top of this channel around 8,200. And if we do drop here, I'm not too worried about us breaking down outside of the channel. I'm thinking 7,500 should stop us out, which would be in line with where this channel is. So that's my downside prediction, is to watch for 7,500. Longer downside prediction, if we break 7,500, we're probably going down to about 7. That's where the next major support comes in. So if we break 7,500, watch out for 7, maybe 7.1. But so that's downside. Upside, again, if it's slower, we're going to ride along this ascending moving average. Then we're probably looking at next 3-4 days, and we're going to touch it around 8,200 up here. But if it's quicker, watch for 8,400 to stop out up here. We could go higher, but until it gets to above 8,000 and to up to 8,400, I'm not going to focus on what happens. I will say if it got above 8,400, we're probably back in the ascending channel. And this was just a little aberrant dip, and then we're looking back at ascending channel action. But we'll see if it can hit 8,400 and do that. One more thing, though, I want to touch on. is, I like to look at the longer term cycle. So let's head over to the weekly and look at where we are in like the larger cycle for a moment, just to see what we can expect in maybe the coming weeks and months. Okay, here we are on the weekly, and also I switched to logarithmic just because it gives a better view of this long-term trend. This is literally over the last several years, the last 2 market cycles and then some. This is Bitfinex, so you can even go back further on some charts, but this is enough to show the trend I'm talking about. Bitcoin has virtually never broken this trend line, some small aberrant moves, and in the long-term cycle, it has a tendency to, when it goes parabolic, break away from the trend line, return to the trend line, and then it doesn't really go parabolic again until we've touched on that previous all-time high. So this cycle is definitely accelerating a little bit faster, and some people have speculated that's why the market is overextended, or that the market is overextended. History doesn't have to repeat itself, but I'm inclined to think that we might be moving up a little fast. I'm definitely not bullish in predicting a huge dip, but I think the healthiest thing we could probably see right now is sideways or slightly downward action until we get back to this trend line. Now that could take a good chunk of the rest of the year based on what we're seeing here. But there's not a lot of evidence that it's going to be able to rocket up and break through 10,000 and go up to 20 anytime too soon. And that would probably be unhealthy. I mean, if it happens, it happens. Great. Bitcoin, prove me wrong. But it's not looking that likely. I mean, even if you look at the RSI on this level, the RSI doesn't tend to ride along the high end very much. It really spikes and dips, and it feels more comfortable riding sideways on the low end. And so we're probably going to see more downside in the RSI, and that would not necessarily equate to a dip, but definitely not upside action. It's going to be probably sideways-ish. And so a longer term prediction is that it's plausible that at least until we can retouch on this basic ascending trend line, that we're not going to see a ton more upside action. And that would put us in most of the rest of the year looking at hovering between maybe 7 and 9,000. Now that's not necessarily that bad of a thing. In fact, for traders, that means there's still a lot of money to be made, especially if we can do it in somewhat of a rhythmic, predictable way. But that remains to be seen, hopefully. But yeah, I'm not bearish. Nothing about this chart says large or long-term bearish. Just I'm trying to be realistic at what the price is doing, and based on the previous action, I think we're probably looking at a 2019 that is averaging between 7 and 9. If we're really lucky, maybe 6 and 10. So at least be aware of that. If history breaks and doesn't repeat itself, who knows? We could go a lot higher, we could crash back down. But that's kind of my outlook for the rest of the year, I think. All right, that should once again just about do it for me. As I'm always saying, this is not investment advice. These are just my personal opinions. Go do your own research and make your own conclusions. Until next week, don't forget that like and subscribe. Good luck with those trades.